People talk about inverter air conditioners like they are some separate high-tech breed of cooling machine. That is not what they are. Underneath the name, an inverter is an ordinary air conditioner with exactly one part swapped out. The compressor, which is the piece that actually does the cooling, can run at different speeds instead of only slamming full on or shutting fully off. Change that one thing and you shift everything people care about: the electric bill, the noise, and whether the room ever holds a steady temperature. Think about how an ordinary air conditioner behaves. Its compressor really only knows two states: wide open or dead stop. It roars on at full power, drives the room a little past the temperature you picked, then quits completely. Wait a few minutes, the warmth seeps back in, and it fires up at full power all over again. That cycle, hard on and hard off, is what makes the startup clunk and that quick flicker in your lights. An inverter never plays that game. It comes on strong to pull the room down quickly, and then, instead of quitting, it throttles way back and settles into a slow, steady run. Picture it holding at 10 or 20%, drawing barely a trickle of power, just enough to keep the room level. Think of a plain unit as a light switch, on or off, with nothing in between. An inverter is more like a dimmer. It can sit at any level it likes, so why the word inverter at all? The power coming out of your wall runs at one fixed rhythm, and a motor plugged straight into it turns at one fixed speed. To vary that speed, the unit rebuilds its own power supply electronically, cranking the pace up when it wants the compressor to spin faster and easing it down when it wants it to slow. That is the entire trick behind the intimidating name. It is the same feature that shows up on some microwaves and refrigerators. There is no cooling breakthrough buried in there, just electronics that can turn the speed up and down instead of flipping it on and off. Honestly, the marketing dresses this up like alien technology, when all it really is a dial where there used to be a switch. If you have ever seen a ductless mini-split, one of those wall units fed by a small box outside, you have already met this technology. Those have been inverter-driven for years. What is new is that it is finally working its way into standard central inducted systems here in the States, which is why every contractor suddenly has the word in his mouth. Most of the rest of the world has run almost nothing but inverter units for a long time, and America is just now catching up. This is the part the salesman is quietly counting on you not to know. When someone says variable speed, stop and ask what exactly is variable, because three different things wear that label, and they are not equal. The real one is a variable speed compressor out in the outdoor unit. That is the actual inverter, and it does everything I just walked through. But a lot of systems only have a variable speed blower, which is nothing more than the indoor fan, and a contractor will happily pair that with a plain single-speed outdoor unit and still call the package variable speed. It does help a bit, but it is nowhere close to the same purchase. Then there is a communicating system where the thermostat and the equipment all talk to each other, which some genuine inverter setups require and others do not. So when a quote says variable speed, nail down whether he means the compressor or just the fan. Those are very different machines at very different prices. So what does that variable speed compressor actually get you? The big draw is energy savings. You will see the claim everywhere that inverter units use 30 to 50% less electricity. And it is true, but only if you genuinely run the thing hard. Here is the part they leave out. The Department of Energy looked at a window inverter unit and measured the savings at around $17 a year, maybe $150 over the unit's entire life. A window unit cooling one room for a few hours simply does not run long enough for the savings to stack up. Put a whole home inverter system to work all summer in a hot climate though, and that 30 to 50% becomes real money. Same exact technology, completely different payoff, decided entirely by how hard you lean on it. If you want a single number to shop by, that is what the SEER rating is telling you, roughly how efficient a unit is over a whole season. A basic single speed sits somewhere around 14 to 16. Inverter systems usually land between 18 and 25, and the top mini splits climb well past 30. One catch to keep in mind: 2 units can carry the same SEER sticker and still cost different amounts to run, because the inverter spends its life at its efficient cruising speed, while the single speed only ever knows its one flat-out setting. 2 things are quietly doing the saving. First, getting a stopped motor moving takes a big gulp of electricity, 3 to 5 times what it draws once it is already spinning. A plain unit swallows that gulp 20 or 30 times a day, every single time it cycles back on. An inverter takes one gentle gulp at startup and then more or less never stops, so it dodges all those restarts. That also puts to rest a myth you might bump into, that the inverter is the one running up your meter. It is the plain on-off unit doing that, slamming to full power again and again. Second, a compressor loafing at low speed moves heat more efficiently than one straining at full tilt. So running slow and long actually wrings more cooling out of each watt. The rest of the perks come from the same trick. It runs quiet because there is no violent startup, just a low hum that fades to almost nothing when it idles. The temperature sits rock steady instead of drifting cold, then warm, then back again. It handles humidity better because the coil stays cool and keeps pulling moisture out of the air continuously rather than in short blasts. And here is one people almost never think about. Because an inverter never spikes at startup, one of these can keep running through a power outage on a modest generator that a plain unit would stall the instant it kicked on. Now for the side of this, the shiny explainer videos tend to glide right past, which happens to be the exact thing people are still arguing about in the comments underneath them. If it saves so much, where is the downside? It all lives in the electronics. All that speed control runs off a circuit board, the inverter board, and those boards are pricey and proprietary. Talk to the technicians who actually crack these open, and the same gripe comes up again and again. The board costs a small fortune. It only comes from the manufacturer, and on a budget unit the replacement price can creep up towards simply buying a new one. A control board can run anywhere from a few $100s to well past $1,000 once labor is on the bill. A variable speed compressor lands around $1,500 to nearly $3,000 installed. Even the fan motor inside one of these can cost several times what an ordinary one does. Two things send those boards to an early grave, so pay attention here. They cannot stand power spikes. If your area gets hit with storms or brownouts, a whole home surge protector on your electrical panel is cheap protection, and the techs push it hard for good reason. Sizing matters more than folks realize too. Drop in an inverter that is too small for the room and it just runs flat out constantly, which means you paid for all that modulation and never actually use any of it. A good inverter sized and installed right and protected from spikes tends to outlast a plain unit because it lives an easy, low-stress life with no jarring starts. A cheap one sitting behind bad power can die young. So the technology itself holds up fine, and what actually burns people is a bargain unit or a sloppy install. So is it actually worth the extra money? When I lined up what the spec sheets claim against what the installers who put these in every day will tell you, the two mostly agreed on who should buy one, which caught me off guard because those two camps usually argue about everything. If this is going in a main bedroom or a living room you run for hours at a stretch in a hot or humid climate, and you care about a quiet house and a steady temperature and a smaller summer bill, an inverter is worth it, and it tends to earn back the price difference inside a couple of years. If it is going in a guest room you cool twice a year, or you are in a mild climate flipping it on for an hour here and there, or your power is shaky and unprotected, the extra cost is tough to defend. A right-sized plain unit set to a sensible temperature will cool that space for a lot less, and it is far cheaper to fix the day it quits. My honest read is that most people run their air conditioning more than they admit, and the comfort alone talks a lot of them into it. Just do not let a salesman push you into the top-shelf inverter for a room you barely walk into. That is really the whole picture. An inverter is a compressor that can change its speed, a switch turned into a dial, and that one upgrade is what buys the quiet, the steady rooms, and the lower bills when you run it enough to matter. When you are shopping, make the salesman tell you what is actually variable, the compressor or just the fan. Ask what that control board will cost to replace somewhere down the line, and weigh it against how hard you truly run your air conditioning, because that number, more than anything on the brochure, decides whether the pricey version pays for itself or just lightens your wallet on the way in. If there are particular units or surge protectors worth a look, I will leave a few down in the description.